All right, guys, welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to the stream. Welcome if you are new here. Thank you guys so much for joining me today and for waiting patiently, as always, for the intro to finish up. Hope everybody is doing well today. JMR, Mini Tom, Lady Gamer, Brian, Diego, MRPD, Robert, JJ, Petrov. What's going on, guys? Thank you for being here so early. What's the Bluepoint news? We'll talk about that. It's nothing like major, but it does seem to indicate that they're beginning work on a new game. Perfect Image, Hellbound. What's going on, guys? Yeah, so we're going to be talking about Xbox players seemingly begging, I mean, genuinely like begging Insomniac and Sony to bring Spider-Man 2, Spider-Man, I think 2018, I guess Spider-Man 2 as well, but basically just to bring Spider-Man over to Xbox. So we'll talk about that situation. We're going to be talking about Sony Gamescom 2025. Sony's not going to be at Gamescom this year, but there is a game that's going to be a PlayStation 5 console exclusive that is going to be at Gamescom this year. And this is a big game that people have been looking forward to, and it's going to have a huge presence at Gamescom. So we will talk about that. And we're going to talk a little bit about Bluepoint's next game. You know, any opportunity I get to talk about Bluepoint, I'm going to do that. Lost Soulside is actually not the game I'm talking about, but yeah, that could be at Gamescom as well. That is a Sony published game, which is interesting. You're saying don't cry and act like PlayStation players didn't whine to have Xbox games on PlayStation? Oh, I'm not saying PlayStation players weren't port begging either. No, to be clear, I'm not making that claim. People want to assume I'm making that claim. I've never stated that, nor am I stating it now. But the reality is, if you look under Insomniac Games' latest post, it's, oh man, it's kind of crazy. What episode am I on in Death Stranding 2? I'm about to reach Chapter 9, MRPD. I mean, Mini Tom, that's true to a degree. Some PlayStation players actually didn't want Xbox games on PlayStation. Like, there were some PlayStation players that I saw that were like, you can keep it. And I'm sure there are certain Xbox players who probably had that same mentality. But it's interesting that Sony basically opened the door now. Sony opened the door to, you know, to things like this, to seeing people beg for Spider-Man on Xbox. And you know, it's like, well, could it happen? Is it a possibility? Robert, you're saying we'd be happy to get, but beg? No way. I'm sure Spider-Man could run on Xbox if they were to actually properly port it. They'd probably have to do some extra work for the Series S version, I would assume. Why don't they just wait till they get the $1,000 Xbox handheld device? Well, that's the thing, man. When Microsoft announced their games, the first wave of games like Sea of Thieves and Hi-Fi Rush were coming to PlayStation, people were immediately asking, like, is that it? What about games like Starfield? What about games like Indiana Jones? What about possibly Gears or Halo or Forza? And it's interesting to me because one of the things that I've noticed that's very different right now is when when this happened with Xbox last year and, continued throughout last year into this year, when this happened, there was a really big deal made about it. Specifically, there were a lot of people and a lot of influencers who were jumping on the bandwagon of like PlayStation players now love Xbox games and they're port begging for Xbox games, and they just ran with it. They just ran with it. Meanwhile, we're over here being like, I mean, it seems like they're going full slate, like they're doing multiple games right out of the gate. Who's to say how many more they're going to do? And then here's the interesting part that no one wants to bring up, right? There's also the fact that leading up to Microsoft's announcement that they were bringing 4 games over, and then after that announcement occurred, there was just a tidal wave, a tsunami of rumors and insiders coming out saying, like, here's what's next. Here's what they're doing. Here are the games that are coming in the next wave. You're not seeing anything like that with PlayStation right now. Again, that's not to say that it won't happen, but people like to leave that part out when it's like, well, PlayStation players were port begging too. And it's like, or maybe we were actually just reporting, if not reporting, just reacting to the myriad of rumors and leaks where every week there was a new game that was rumored to be coming to PlayStation. And it wasn't just coming from nobodies, right? It wasn't coming from people making stuff up. More than half of it turned out to be true. Some of it we're still waiting for confirmation. And that's what I find interesting about this situation is that there was actual like cause. There was reason for PlayStation players to be questioning like it, like what's next, because I'm seeing this insider coming out telling us that like Forza's next, right? So does that mean Gears is next? And then it's like, yes, Gears is next. What we're seeing with the Xbox side of things right now is I mean, it's kind of a sad state of affairs, honestly, because it's like they want Sony to announce Spider-Man releasing on Xbox. And I hope Sony isn't, to be honest, I hope Sony doesn't do that, because something tells me that what we're seeing are people who, like, they don't actually really even care that much about Spider-Man. They don't really care that much about PlayStation Studio games. They just want to see the wall go down. You know what I mean? And I get that. Where it's like I don't get it. If you guys wanted Spider-Man this bad, why are you only like, why does it only matter now? You know what I'm saying? And that certainly could be the case for some PlayStation players too. It's like when people talk about like Halo coming to PlayStation, it's like, dude, I didn't like, Halo wasn't good enough for me to make me go run out and get an Xbox. It's still not going to be good enough for me to buy it on PlayStation if it comes to PlayStation. Like, same thing with Sea of Thieves. You know what I mean? It's just like, yeah, like most of us are going to understand that there's a limit to this. And Isley comes in and drops a membership gift for you guys. Isley, thank you so much.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
I appreciate the support there, Isley. I will add that to the counter. If we get to 25, we'll feed the beast. You know how it is. So with Helldivers on Xbox, is Spider-Man next? You can say the same thing now that the floodgates are open. Not necessarily, though, Hanzo. Like, I understand where you're coming from, but this is kind of the difference. I'm not saying, I want it to be clear, because I know how people like to interpret things. I'm not saying Spider-Man won't come to Xbox. And I'm not saying that there isn't, good cause for people to be talking about Spider-Man coming to Xbox. It's not time yet, boss. It's not time yet, buddy. Like, it's understandable why people are currently, why Xbox players are currently begging for Spider-Man. It's understandable. Sony has, the floodgates haven't opened, but they have sent a clear signal that here's a video game that we developed and we published that was never, that everybody thought would never come to Xbox, and now it is. So of course the next thing in line is, well, why not Spider-Man? So I get that. But I just think that the great irony here, not even irony, that's not the right word, but I think the great mistake, I should say, from Sony's perspective, let's say these Xbox players end up being right and Sony does end up porting Spider-Man to Xbox. I just think I'll be honest, I think that's a boneheaded move on Sony's part, because Sony is not in the position that Microsoft is in. It's hard to look at Microsoft porting a game like Forza Horizon 5 to to PlayStation and then selling 2 million copies in 1 month at full price, and look at that and say that's boneheaded. The reason why it's hard to say that is because if you look at what's happening to the Xbox platform itself, to the Xbox console, to the Xbox storefront, there's nothing boneheaded about it. It's like, dude, we need this. Like, we need to do this because we're not selling games, not anywhere near on the level that we need to. Sony's not in that position. Sony has, like 80 million PS5 players out there. Sony, they sell millions upon millions, tens of millions of copies of their games on their console, and then a little bit extra on PC when they come to PC, or in the case of Helldivers, a lot more on PC. So what's interesting about the idea of Spider-Man, boss, you need to get down. Come on, dude, chill. What's interesting about Spider-Man possibly making its way to Xbox is how it's totally needless and unnecessary for Sony. And it would be, if Sony were to do that, that would be the confirmation that they are like truly multi-platform. More so than Helldivers 2. Because Helldivers 2, you can chalk it up to, this is a live service game. You know what I mean? This is a live service game. This is a game that it needs more players. Half of its revenue is made through, microtransactions. So you can kind of understand that. But when it comes to something like Spider-Man, it's like the signal that it would send, the ripple it would create if Sony were to do that. I'll be honest, I think it would be a huge mistake where it's like, dude, you are like the Xbox storefront, like the Xbox ecosystem is diminishing like rapidly. Why would you do this? For what? For an extra million sales? It's that important? You know what I mean? Whereas when you look at the Microsoft side of things, it's like, dude, if we can get 2 million sales of Forza, that's massive for us. That's absolutely colossal. There's a difference here. Like if Sony got an extra 2 million sales for Spider-Man, I'm not saying that's insignificant and nothing, but it's like, what is the cost associated with this? I don't know, man. Did you hear how Microsoft is laying off more employees at King and replacing them with AI? I did hear about that. Yeah. That's very, very depressing, but also not surprising. Hanzo, you're saying they're not in the same position as Xbox, but damn well they don't care about exclusivity or how it makes their fan base feel. It's all about profit. And that could be true. Yeah, I mean, if that's really what it comes down to, man, then I think Sony could just be willing to take a chance, right? Like, you know what? We know there's going to be a lot of outcry if we port Spider-Man to Xbox, but let's just see what happens. Because there is that level of like, yeah, we put it on Xbox. You're not going to buy Wolverine now? You're going to skip Ghost of Yotei? You're not going to buy the next PlayStation? And there's a level of arrogance there, or maybe like too much confidence. But it's like, I mean, they're kind of fair questions to ask. It's like, for the PlayStation player who maybe would get upset at like, how could you port a single player game to Xbox? Like, Sony, this is not, you're not supposed to be the one doing that, right? Like, this isn't how you do things. What does happen when Sony just ignores that person? Like, whatever. I mean, it's a real question. Like, what does happen? Because, you do have certain people who think that something really bad would happen, but it's like, I'm not so sure. I'm not entirely sure. But my big question, I saw somebody left a comment, and it was interesting. They were like, Sony clearly has some kind of like line of communication with Microsoft. Where like Sony knows the score. Like, they understand, like, this is it. Like, this is the end of the Xbox console as we know it. That is true, JMR. That is true. Detective Seeds on Twitter said he spoke with people within Insomniac and said that they have not been porting anything to Xbox. I mean, yeah, I just think that we are at this point where it's like everybody is just kind of waiting for the other shoe to drop. You know what I mean? Like, everybody's waiting where it's like, okay, it starts with Helldivers, and then next up Spider-Man, and then after that it's, yeah, that's true, Devil Shooter. That's true. Insomniac did say, I mean, they said it publicly on social media, but they said that it's only going to be on PlayStation, and then it ended up getting ported to PC. I think people need to understand that Insomniac, this is a Sony decision. Like, if Sony wants to put Spider-Man on Xbox, Insomniac can do nothing about it. Nobody can do anything about it. If that's what Sony wants to do, that's what they're going to do. But to me, it's interesting where it's like, I guess a lot of these Xbox players really do like Sony games more than we thought. I was scrolling through the replies on that Insomniac post, and genuinely surprised. I'm like, geez, man, people are, I mean, like, truly begging for this game to come to Xbox. And I'm like, I didn't think Xbox players like PlayStation games that much. Planet Schlorpian with a $2 chat says Xbox are desperate for games they won't buy or play. Well, that's what I tried to tell people, in my video today, is like, I understand why people are begging for Spider-Man and assuming it's going to happen, but it's like, maybe you should wait and see how Helldivers sells first. I think people keep overlooking, especially the Xbox fan base. This is what I don't understand, is like, when Xbox announces their games are coming to PlayStation, you can call out PlayStation fanboys all you want for port begging and suddenly liking Xbox games. But the one thing you can't say is that they're not going to sell. Some of them, right? Like, for a fact, you bring a game like Forza, it's going to sell. You bring a game like Gears, it's going to sell. Why? Because PlayStation players buy games. That is literally how the business is conducted on the platform. Do PlayStation players subscribe to PlayStation Plus? Yes, they do. But generally speaking, people who are playing on PlayStation are buying video games. Same thing with Nintendo. Same thing with Steam. In fact, the only platform where people are really truly conditioned to not buy games is Xbox. And I feel like too many of these Xbox players who are begging for this, it's like, don't you understand why Sony would look at that and say no? It's not even because they're like the bad guy in the room being like, no, we don't want to put our game over there because F you. No, they're probably like, would it be worth it? Like, what could we really expect? That's not me saying they won't do it. It's just like, people keep overlooking the fact that games do not sell well on the Xbox platform. And I understand what's like, well, then why would they put Helldivers? And it's like, well, because they're clearly experimenting. They're like, listen, if we have any game that we could bring to Xbox that might actually sell, it's probably Helldivers. And to be honest, if Helldivers doesn't sell well on Xbox, nothing else from Sony is going to sell well on Xbox. Just flat out. If Helldivers can't do it, nothing else that Sony has will. That's just the reality of it. Because Helldivers is truly like, that is the game that represents, it's a co-op live service multiplayer shooter. You know, you're putting it on the on the console, on the box, that like this is what the player base is known to engage with. Final Fantasy 16 only sold 20K copies. And we'll see how Black Myth Wukong does, right? Like we saw people, dude, I saw Xbox players straight up, at least on Twitter, saying that they're standing on principle or whatever. They're not buying Black Myth Wukong on Xbox because they feel like the studio lied to them or was not transparent enough. And I'm like, you guys are the problem. Like, you're the reason, just so you know. You're the reason why, like, Xbox is going down the drain, dude, or the platform as we knew it is going down the drain because, like, what is that? I'm not buying it. Because they had to optimize for the Series S. Well, joke's on you, man, because they don't need your sale. You know, like that game broke records and sold over like 25 million copies without being involved on the Xbox platform at all. So it's just like I'm just saying, like, why would a studio or a platform holder like Sony be eager to drop a single player game on a platform where that's what the players are saying? Like, that's what some of the players are saying, and that's how they're acting. Literally, all across the internet, what do you see people saying when Helldivers 2 is announced for Xbox? Is it coming to Game Pass? Is it dropping on Game Pass? That's the first thing. That's the first and only thing you'll hear from an Xbox player. And again, that's like, I'm not even blaming them. But Microsoft did that to them. It's crazy, man. It's crazy to me. If Sony actually ports Spider-Man to Xbox, I think they've lost the plot. It's like, all right, man, go get those 800,000 unit sales. I guess that's totally worth, you know. Helldivers, I get it. Helldivers, it's a live service. It's the only successful live service Sony has. They're desperate. They are. I mean, Sony's desperate to make sure that Helldivers is solidified, and I get it because that might be, and this is the reality, Helldivers might be the only successful live service game that Sony ever has. So yes, it makes sense why they want to try to. Again, I wouldn't be surprised if they try to get it to Switch 2, if they try to make a mobile version. You know, they want it to be everywhere. Well, there's Destiny. That's true. Yeah, sometimes I forget they own Destiny. There is Destiny, but I'm talking one that just kind of happened organically. You know what I mean? Just like happened. Sony wants more of that. I don't know if they'll get it. But I just think if Sony's willing to... Like, I just hope Sony understands that seeing people, and of course they understand this, but like seeing people begging on an Insomniac post, making it seem like I'll buy Spider-Man on Xbox. It's like, but will you? Will you though? Like, because you see that post and you see the replies, and it's like, man, maybe this game would do big numbers on Xbox. I bet you if they were to drop it on Xbox tomorrow or like next week, it'd probably struggle to get to 1 million. Because it's not a slight at Xbox. It's just you have a small install base of players who don't buy video games. To me, that sounds like the opposite of what would it be like. That's the opposite of appealing to a publisher. But I don't know, man. As somebody said earlier, maybe for Sony, maybe in the age of Hiroki Totoki, it's all about those profits, man. Hey, 800,000 sales, that's 800,000 more than we had before. If that's how Sony sees it, then that's how they see it. You know, that would be very, I feel like that's very kind of tone deaf in a way where it's like, well, you know, these companies spend millions for data analytics. They aren't just seeing Twitter and making a port. Yeah, I mean, Sony probably has access to all the data of how well did all the previous Spider-Man games sell on Xbox. Because that's what's interesting is Spider-Man does have a history on Xbox, which is why it wouldn't be like, holy shit, This is never like this is crazy. Like I saw there was a picture that somebody posted under the Insomniac post where they had all the Spider-Man games from the Xbox 360 to the Xbox One, and there was like 10 of them or something. So Spider-Man has a precedence on Xbox. It's not like it's always existed on Xbox. In fact, what we see with Spider-Man PS5 is the only time Spider-Man didn't exist on Xbox. Which, you know, again, you could kind of see why maybe Sony be like, well, I guess whatever, let's just put it over there. But you know, Sony probably has access to that data where they can see like, well, how well did all the previous Spider-Man games sell? You know? You think if Xbox offered Sony a 50 million Game Pass bag for Spider-Man, that'd be the equivalent of 1 million copies sold? Diego, you want Wu Chang Fallen Feathers? Yeah, that's true, Sage. A lot of people consider it the best Spider-Man game. Who cares? Xbox is dead anyway. Release it or don't. I mean, yeah, that's what makes the conversation kind of difficult, is it does kind of feel that way. It does kind of feel like Xbox is not dead, but like the traditional way that people have engaged with the Xbox platform, that seems to be on its last leg. No, we don't have any news on an upcoming State of Play or showcase, but my guess is probably September, or at least for a new State of Play. Are we making an assumption that Marvel might force Sony to put Spider-Man on Xbox? Just trying to understand the discussion. Well, I mean, it's multifaceted, where there are multiple angles, I should say, that people are approaching this from. One angle is people saying that Sony's just going to do it because Sony is now this is the beginning. This is Sony's it's only 4 games moment, where it's just Helldivers, but then we're going to see them start porting a bunch of games. The reason why I'm not so sure about this is because we haven't heard anything. Like, when Microsoft was in the midst of saying it's only 4 games, they were surrounded by a truckload of rumors and insiders and gossip basically saying, like, no, it ain't. Like, this is the beginning of the end. You're not seeing that on the Sony side. Now, maybe that's because they're really buttoned up and nothing's leaking, but we're just not hearing that. Like, it's just like, here's Helldivers. Now, to be fair, nobody knew about Helldivers either. So there were no rumors of Helldivers being announced for Xbox. That never really happened. So I don't know. I don't know if people are looking at it from that angle, but people are also looking at it as maybe it's not up to Sony. Maybe Disney will pressure, or Marvel will pressure Sony, where it's like, bro, like, you got to put this everywhere. Maybe there is this kind of pressure on Sony from all different places, where it's like, we saw it happen with MLB. We're seeing it happen with Helldivers, for the need to keep the player base up. It's hard to say. Wait, what was Pushing Polygon saying? Don't bite. Boss, chill. Stop fighting me. Oh, okay. About the 50 million offer. Do Xbox players even care about single player games? Good question. You think Spider-Man exclusivity is a crime? Everybody loves Spider-Man. I mean, Yeah, I can kind of see that angle. But here's another thought that is worth, I would say keeping in mind. If Sony were to announce Spider-Man for Xbox, that would set up a new precedent, where you have to consider, like, Wolverine is still in development. Wolverine's still coming, and Wolverine was announced as a PS5 exclusive. If they were to announce and drop Spider-Man on Xbox prior to Wolverine coming out, I think I think you will see a situation where suddenly maybe you lose sales. People, I think, would have went out there and bought a PS5 for Wolverine. Some of those people are now not going to, because they're going to sit there and assume that this game will eventually come to wherever they are. Now, granted, you could say, well, that already exists for PC. And yeah, that is true. And therefore, I don't know how many PC players who would have went out and bought a PS5 to play Wolverine are now not going to. Maybe it just doesn't matter to Sony anymore. But we'll see, man. If the only thing I feel like I can say with certainty is that if Sony does bring Spider-Man to Xbox, the conversation of exclusivity is over, like, entirely, where exclusivity really won't matter anymore at all. Like, I feel strongly about that, because it's just like Sony. I think Sony, they spent nearly 5 generations conditioning their player base to expect exclusives. And if they take, they've pretty much pushed the envelope as far as they could. It's like, well, we'll give you timed exclusives and then we'll put them on PC. And, maybe we'll take Helldivers and we'll put that on Xbox. And maybe we'll take Lego Horizon and put that on Switch too. And it's like, they just keep kind of pushing the envelope where it's like, all right, well, I mean, like, what does exclusivity really mean now at this point? And if Sony crosses that, like, final line, where it's like, we're going to be, we're going to take our single player game that was supposed to be exclusive, it shipped with the only on PlayStation logo, and we're going to put it on Xbox. I think that will, like, at that point, exclusivity is over. Like, the question would need to be asked, like, well, why wait on anything now? It's the same question that people have asked or were asking about Xbox, where it's like, well, if you're willing to put Forza Horizon 5, if you're willing to backport that game to PlayStation, then why, in what universe would you not release Forza Horizon 6 day one on PS5? The same thing would be applicable if Spider-Man came to Xbox, where it's like, let's just say by the end of this year or early next year, it's announced for Xbox, Spider-Man launches on Xbox. Why would Sony not put Spider-Man 3 on Xbox at that point? You get what I'm saying? Or if they put, like, Spider-Man 1 and 2 in, like, a package or whatever, why would they not do that? And why would anybody assume they're not going to do that? You know what I mean? It's like, oh, well, they're trying to give them a taste. We got some breaking news for more layoffs. The whole, give them a taste thing, I don't think lines up. Sony says that about PC, but I don't know that. I've always been skeptical of that. Like, oh, we want to give PC players a taste. Maybe they'll come over to the console. And it's like, well, what? Like, dude, there's no way you actually believe that. Like, you're not going to win PC players over that way. You know what I mean? PC players are going to come over if you offer a game that immediately looks appealing to them that they can't have. They might consider it. Yeah, we have a report here from WCCF Tech. According to a French journalist, Virtuos, the studio players will recognize as a team working with Konami on Metal Gear Solid Delta Snake Eater, and also the recently released Elder Scrolls Oblivion remasters undergoing mass layoffs with 300 developers set to lose their jobs. Damn. Well, that's depressing. Leadership allegedly announced a freeze on raises and a reduction in bonuses this past February, which certainly did not help the situation. And now with these layoffs, according to the report, developers at Virtuous Leon, I don't know if that's how you say that, have gone on strike to protest the cuts and the impact they'd have to the company's productivity and operating capacity. To make matters worse for developer morale, Virtuos leaders have also allegedly begun pushing generative AI tools on employees who are now allegedly mandated to attend basic training sessions on using AI tools. Yeah, it's happening, man. This isn't surprising. Like the part about the AI tools, the layoffs suck. This is going to be an industry-wide thing. We're seeing the beginnings of it now, but for the next year, 2 years, 3 years, boss, come on, man. You're just going to see more and more and more of this, and yeah, it's pretty bad. We use AI tools and are integrating AI without laying people off. Yeah. I mean, I'm not saying these companies shouldn't use AI or use AI tools. It's just like, when it becomes clear that it's in an effort to kind of replace the labor, replace people working, it's pretty dystopian, man. That's pretty bad. So that really sucks. Feels like that's kind of out of nowhere. AI and automation are going to take over everything. I mean, in the long run, it seems like that's where we're headed. We have Pragmatic Cat, a member for 40 months. Thank you, Pragmatic Cat, saying MBG Xbox will get Spider-Man and more with the next when the next gen Xbox comes out with Steam. Well, this is why I think Sony. That's true, Pragmatic Cat. That's true, and I really wonder. I would love to be a fly on the wall. I would love to know, what does Sony think about that? What do they think about it? Because that is true. Like, Xbox players who report begging for Spider-Man on Xbox right now, even if they don't get it, if they buy the next Xbox console / hardware, PC hardware, you could play it then. So they're gonna get it either way. And I really wonder if Sony is looking at this and they're like, well, you know what? Screw it. We'd rather just drop it now, get full price. Sell it for $70, get as much as we can now, so that way we get 100%. Or no. Hold on, let me back up. No, I scratch what I just said, because I just realized, wait, they're not getting 100%. So, yeah, I don't know. I think Sony's got to be a little bit more transparent, man. I got to be honest. Like, I feel like them just casually announcing Helldivers for Xbox, I think that they should just come out and say, like, here's why we did it. They don't have to, and they're not. They're literally not doing that right now. But I think that they should kind of clarify or reaffirm their stance, because, yeah, dude, if Sony just doesn't do anything, people who buy the next-gen Xbox will be able to buy Spider-Man 1, Spider-Man Miles Morales, Spider-Man 2, and eventually one day Spider-Man 3, years down the line. Sony will still get that 70% cut, and Steam will get the other 30%. If Sony decides to port it themselves manually, backport it to Xbox, Sony is willing to share a 30% cut with Xbox, which I don't understand. Like, that I genuinely wouldn't understand, where it's like you're going to get the same amount either way. Now you're just helping out what's supposed to be your rival or your biggest competitor. Unless it's just like a flex on Sony's part, where it's like, yeah, we're not worried about them anymore. They could take the 30%. They're not a threat. I don't know. Lux, you're saying with the super chat, another content update for Cyberpunk 2077 plus VRR on console. I saw that. Yeah, it's interesting to me that Cyberpunk is still such a big game that, like, they do a little showcase. a little showcase for their updates. And I think that they said it was supposed to be their last update, but then they were like, actually, we're going to do one more. Good on them, man. I mean, Cyberpunk has gotten seemingly incredible support. All right. Sorry, guys. Okay. 60 million sales. Damn, dude. That's crazy. Yo, did you see that report that it's predicted that GTA 6 is going to sell 85 million units in 2 months or something like that? I see it. I see it happening. I mean, I don't that's just an estimate, but it's coming from like an analytics firm or something. Seems low for GTA. Yeah, bump it up to 100 million. It just feels unfair. Like straight up, it just feels unfair to like every other publisher and game. That's wild. Armani Coleman with a $2 super chat says Rise of Hydra might show at Gamescom. My bad. Yeah, well, that's the thing. Gamescom, Sony is not going to be part of Gamescom. Seeing something like Rise of Hydra, that would make sense. That's a game that did get delayed to 2026, and we are still kind of waiting to get a proper look at the gameplay. I could see that being a game that shows up. It's not surprising that Sony's not going to be at Gamescom, though. This is the 6th year in a row that they've skipped Gamescom. Sony has made it pretty clear that they do not partake in Gamescom. It's not to say that, we won't get games that are going to be on PS5. There will be PS5 games there, but Sony seems to always shift their focus to September. They kind of like forego August for September, where they usually do their own state of play. Sometimes they do a showcase, and then they have a pretty significant presence at Tokyo Game Show. So I think Gamescom is going to be really just a multi, like for PlayStation players, if you're tuning in, it's going to be for multi-plat stuff. Although, like I said, Phantom Blade Zero, a PS5 console exclusive, a big one that a lot of people are anticipating, that will be at Gamescom. That's going to have a pretty big showing. They said they're going to have a new hour-long demo or something that people can go hands-on with. And they'll probably give us a release date, if I had to guess. MBG's still coping about the Helldivers news. Dude, his name is PlayStation Full Slate to Xbox. No way. PlayStation Full Slate to Xbox. That's such a ridiculously long name, dude. Tell him to have a Capri Sun and chill. You got my ass, bro. That is funny. That is funny, though. No, I agree with that, Armani. I think Gamescom would be a good place for Rise of Hydra to show up. No, we talked about that yesterday, Jeffrey. Shinobi 602 shot that down. Nothing going on with the order. Well, bro is typing off of his Nabi learning tablet. Dude, why does that sound familiar, though? The Nabi learning tablet. That is good. You guys, dude, you guys never cease to amaze me with the stuff you come up with. Have you played Lies of Peak DLC yet? Not yet. I'm still making my way through Death Stranding 2. Well, Jeffrey, I will tell you this, man. I don't know if you missed my stream yesterday. If you did, I'd recommend watching at least the first half of it because we spent like nearly 2 hours talking about specifically, um, the next Santa Monica game and whether or not it's actually going to be something God of War related. It was a really in-depth discussion. Yeah, I need to make more time to really sit down and you know what I've been trying to do, and I've been getting a little sidetracked by this. I'm trying to clean up Astrobot, get the last remaining bots and get the trophies, and I'm stuck on the final one. I need one more. I think it's it. Just one more level. It's the mastery level, and it's one more bot that I need to collect, and I get 100% for everything in Astrobot. And I think that this is the final DLC, and I'm struggling with it, man. It's making me so mad. I had to walk away from it numerous times. It's really tough. Really, really tough. Sage Infinite says he finally beat Melania. You did it, Sage. I'm proud of you, man. Congratulations. Make sure you're making time for the wife, bro. Always making time for the wife. Yeah, Melania is pretty tough. I think it took me quite a while to beat Melania. I really hope it's a new IP and not God of War related. Well, apparently it's not a new IP, but it's going to feel like a new IP. That's what we were told. I don't want to rehash the entire discussion from yesterday because we really did talk about it for a long time, but that's what it's not literally a new IP, but it's going to feel like a new IP. So I'm like, well, that could be a few different things. It helps whittle it down a little bit. They're bringing back Starhawk. Dude, you know what's crazy? The amount of people I saw, like, seemingly earnestly saying it's SOCOM. Like, they're like, Santa Monica's doing SOCOM. Santa Monica's doing Starhawk or Warhawk. And I'm like, guys, I really don't think that's happening. Like, I get it. I want to see these games come back too, but I don't think Santa Monica's going to be the one because it's Cory Barlog's game, you know? I don't see him being like, yeah, I just really want to make a SOCOM. Like, really? But Sony should do something with some of these IPs. They should. You would jump through the roof if it was Starhawk. That's interesting. There's a lot of people here who miss Warhawk and Starhawk. Maybe Sony should bring it back. But that is kind of the question, right? Like, what is the right studio? No, I didn't see Superman yet. I don't know if I'm going to end up seeing it or not. I would like to. With Donkey Kong at 90 on Metacritic, PlayStation will have no first-party game of the year contenders. PlayStation can't rob now. Dude, did you spend the last 10 minutes thinking of that? He's like, I gotta think of something. Digital Dude says everyone wants these old games to come back, but let me check the sales data, shall we? I mean, the thing is, I think it's safe to say a lot of these games didn't really sell that well or didn't meet their full potential. I think the question is, what franchise does Sony maybe think, what IP, what franchise does Sony think has the best potential in, modern day, 2025 and beyond, to maybe become a big hit? And this is why, like, dude, I understand Sony's like, we gotta do different stuff. Like, we gotta do the Concord and the Fair Gameses, and like, we gotta do this to have successful live service. So I'm like, I don't know, man. You have IP, you have games that truthfully I think would translate pretty well if you really tried to, like, make a AAA live service version of some of these games. I think they would translate pretty well in the live service space. And I think Sony's just like, nah, man, we need that Fortnite energy. It's like, okay, well. Breaking news: new CEO for Ubisoft. It's Jim Ryan, isn't it? Let's see. Ubisoft and Tencent appoint Charlie Gilmont as it and Christoph Duranis, as co-CEOs in its new subsidiary. So is that like the guy's son? Is that Yves Guillemot's son? It is, isn't it? Sheesh. Yeah, Ubisoft lost me a while ago, man. For now, anyway. I mean, it's not to say like I'm not interested in anything they're doing, but I don't really engage with many of their games anymore. It's the family still. The father just stepped down. Doesn't change anything. Well, I mean, I wonder, yeah. I wonder if we will see any change. I mean, I'm assuming they're going to change something because, I mean, if they're willing to make that announcement, they got to have some kind of different plan. Where's Stephen Leon to say family? I mean, you put 70 hours into Assassin's Creed Shadows. I mean, apparently Assassin's Creed Shadows was pretty good. From what I've heard, it's a pretty good game. A little grindy, very grindy, but still good. Yeah, Assassin's Creed seems to still be doing well for Ubisoft. I think it's like almost everything else. I guess Rainbow Six is still doing well. Let me see. I mean, did they say they're planning on doing anything differently? I probably should have clicked the article. Insider Gaming. Yves Guillemot has announced that Ubisoft will soon have a creative houses structure moving forward. In the announcement, the first creative house will be a new subsidiary of Tencent, with Charlie Gilmont and Christoph Durines appointed as co-CEOs. Hello, everyone. I'm not reading this whole thing. I don't know, man. Like, I care about stuff like this when it happens with like PlayStation and Sony, but I'll be honest, man. Like, I just don't care about Ubisoft like that. Like, I am hoping for good results. Like I want Ubisoft to get me excited about their upcoming games again. I'm not rooting against them per se, but I don't know. It's hard for me to care, truthfully. Your younger nephew plays Siege a lot. That game's still popping. Well, Battlefield is EA. Yeah, that's EA. What's the Bluepoint news? So the Bluepoint news, it's nothing major, but I came across this. It was actually TCMF over on Twitter. He said Bluepoint Games is hiring for their next PS5/PS6 project. They have 2 new roles for hire: a senior graphics engineer and a principal graphics engineer. And this comes not too long after their God of War live service game got canceled. The thing is with these job offers at Bluepoint, it doesn't, as far as I can tell, it doesn't specifically say what they're working on, but this does seem to indicate that they have decided. Like at least that's my interpretation of this. It seems like Bluepoint, similar to Ben Studio, has decided what it is they're going to work on now, and so now they're hiring they're hiring for certain roles that they're going to need. Um, what's interesting, and I'm not trying to like read too much into these job listings, but a senior graphics engineer and a principal graphics engineer. Do we think they're going back to do another remake? Is this why they're so focused on hiring roles that focus on graphical technology, um, and graphical engineering? I'm thinking that might be what this is indicating, because I don't know. I feel like these are roles that you would have. I don't know. I just feel like for extra hiring extra people to bring onto your team that specifically focus on the graphical side. I don't know. That's kind of what they've been specializing in when it comes to these remakes, kind of bringing up games such as Demon Souls. Oh my god, my eye is itching. I'm sorry. Bloodborne remake. Jerry Gamer dropped a super chat, but then retracted it. I wasn't able to read it, but I guess we'll see what Jerry was trying to say. Maybe it's criminal what they did to Bluepoint. They should have been pumping out remakes left and right. Well, that's kind of the irony. Is like we got all these remasters and remakes, and like the one studio that's like, this is your expertise. Bring out the remake that everybody's gonna love. And they're like, yeah, no, we're doing a God of War live service. Yeah, I mean, so my understanding of the situation with Bluepoint is this. Bluepoint, after Demon Souls shipped, was appointed as a support studio for about a year or two to help finish up the development of God of War Ragnarok. I think a lot of people don't know that. Development of the God of War live service game did not begin seemingly until after God of War Ragnarok shipped. So between 2020 and the launch of Demon Souls and 2022 and the launch of Ragnarok, they weren't working on a new game. They were helping finish up Ragnarok. And so you can kind of a little bit, just a little bit, you can kind of understand why when they were done, they had to pitch a new game to Sony. Because keep in mind, this is how this works for people who don't know. These studios pitch games to Sony, and Sony decides whether they like it and they want to fund it and be like, yeah, this is what we want you to do. Let's do it. But they leave it up to the studio to decide, like, what do you want to do? Pitch it to us, and we'll take it from there. You can kind of understand at that time, Sony's going all in with live service. Jim Ryan's like, we need 12 live service games. You know, it's all about the live service. Bluepoint is extremely familiar with the God of War engine. You know, they have all the assets. They understand the game. They help develop it. You can kind of see from that perspective why they're like, what if we pitch a live service God of War game? But that's where I feel like Sony should have been wise enough to understand that, like, you got to shoot that down. You got to say, we appreciate the pitch and we see what you're going for. We don't think this is the best direction for you to go in. Why don't you pitch us something else? I think that's where Sony really messed up by not, kind of stopping that in its tracks. Because that's where I do question Herman Hulst a little bit, man, where it's like, Herman's the one that's got to green light that. And I feel like, dude, Herman, like, you really think people want a live service God of War game, and you think Bluepoint should be the one to do it? What? Like, what? There's so much wrong with this, But, hopefully they've learned now. We have Josh Z with a $5 super chat. And he says the director of Expedition 33 left Ubisoft because he knew that they would never greenlight the game, and even if they did, would have micromanaged development. I read about that. Yeah, he basically threw Ubisoft under the bus, but understandably, because he's not wrong. I don't think he needed to say that for people to kind of understand it, but it does reinforce what everybody kind of thinks about Ubisoft, which is just like, yeah, man, this is you guys are kind of creatively bankrupt in some ways. And it's crazy. It's crazy to think that Ubisoft could have had Expedition 33 if they were just willing to let them do their thing and trust them and greenlight it and let them. And that's the problem, man. These big publishers are the executives that run these big publishers, they're so afraid. They're so afraid, man. And there's no doubt that there's major risk involved. Like greenlighting something like Expedition 33 and giving it total, creative freedom and putting that kind of money behind it, it is a big risk. But sometimes these risks are worth taking. Sometimes they do pay off. And Expedition 33 could have been, the next big thing for Ubisoft. It's crazy, man. Josh, thank you for the super chat, man. We also have Jerry Gamer with his super chat saying, finished DS2. I was worried about Kojima. He may have smoked weed and got high while designing the ending. By the way, does console war and fanboys only exist in USA? No, I think console warring and the fanboys, they're everywhere. They exist everywhere. It's universal. Dude, you know what? I gotta say, I really need to get to the end of Death Stranding 2. Nobody spoil anything. But I've been kind of hearing this from people. I've been kind of hearing that some people are torn. Like some people kind of like it, some people don't. Some people think that Kojima went way off the rails, went way too crazy. And I'm like, well, I remember that the ending of Death Stranding 1 was kind of like that. It was like all over the place, but I want to finish it and find out for myself. Because, yeah, I keep so far where I am in the game, like nothing crazy has happened yet. Like nothing that feels like there's definitely like some of that Kojima zaniness, but nothing like, oh, well, actually, wait, maybe I did. I think I experienced at least one thing where I was like, oh, no. Okay. I lied. There was one part in Death Stranding 2 that I've experienced so far where I'm like, okay. Like, I think Kojima went full R here. Just a little bit. Just a little bit. But only one part so far. No, we're not. I'm no more Death Stranding 2 talk. No more Death Stranding 2 talk. Yeah, we'll save it. We'll save it for the spoiler cast. But yeah, I'll definitely do when I complete it, we'll do a spoiler cast and we'll talk all about it. Save it for the 13-hour spoiler cast. It'll be 13 hours, man. All right. Get this out of here. Clearing up some tabs. Yeah, but getting back to Bluepoint, man, I hope that Bluepoint. I mean, what do I think Bluepoint's making? I've said it before, and I will continue to say it until we find out exactly what they're making. I think they got to do a Bloodborne remake. I feel like that is like, I'm gonna be honest with you. If they're not doing a Bloodborne remake, I will truly question what the hell is wrong with Sony. Like at that point, I will question, like, are you guys, what's wrong with you? You know, like you need to have them start work on a Bloodborne remake right now and have it be at the launch window of the PS5, the PS6. They're probably doing a Last of Us Part 2 remake. I hope they are. Give me an excuse, Sony. Give me an excuse to just blow a gasket. Because I will. Yeah, People Can Fly. They're working on a PlayStation exclusive, apparently on a PlayStation title. We don't know what it is. If they are doing a Bloodborne remake, should it be exclusive to the PS6? I think it should, and then later on they should release it on PS5 and PC. It should be at launch, though, at least for like a year, maybe 2. It should be a PS6 exclusive because that'll get people to upgrade. Maybe Miyazaki's blackmailing them. I mean, there seems to be some. Sony's not stupid. They understand that people want Bloodborne. Like Sony understands that Bloodborne can be one of their biggest franchises, but I think I don't know. I don't know if maybe maybe there's a level of understanding where it's like, but that franchise can't work unless Miyazaki is involved, and Miyazaki can't, he's not gonna. Miyazaki doesn't really do franchises. He did Dark Souls 1, and then everybody freaked out when he didn't do Dark Souls 2, and it forced him to come back for Dark Souls 3, and then after that, he's like, all right, I'm moving on. He did Elden Ring, and I don't think he wants to do an Elden Ring 2. I think he's made that clear. So I don't know. I feel like Sony's in kind of a tough spot where it's like, you think they're just waiting for the perfect time? Probably, yeah. They're holding a secret card to release it when they know it's a tool to ignite the hype. Well, yeah, I mean, dude, that's why I feel like that's got to be a PS6 launch game. Like that's the thing. If you want people to just drop $800 on a PS6, you drop a Bloodborne remake. PS6 launch title. Easy. If you haven't, you should react to the Skill Up's Expedition 33 documentary in the next members launch. It's really good. Long but good. Yeah, he's been putting out some interesting stuff recently. It's a break glass in case of emergency situation. It could be. It could be. Release the Bloodborne. You guarantee there will be an Elden Ring 2? I mean, I agree. I think there will be an Elden Ring 2. I just don't know that Miyazaki will be the one. I don't know that he'll be the one directing it. Because he just always seems like he's ready to just do different stuff. He doesn't really want to settle down with like one. Because, like, I mean, dude, the Dark Souls spawned a whole new genre of game. And, there were 3 Dark Souls titles and he directed 2 of them. Jake's you saying Bloodborne's not for you. It's a bit overhyped in your opinion. You're not the only one who feels that way. There are people who think that it's overrated. Absolutely. You're definitely not the only one. But yeah, man, I think Sony, they need to be smart. And Bluepoint has wasted way too much time. They should, Bluepoint should not be a. I actually need to clarify something here. And this is important because we do need to keep our expectations in check. It is important for me to make it clear that as of right now, it has not been confirmed whether or not Bluepoint is making another game. We do not have explicit confirmation. We have confirmation from Jason Schreier that Bend Studio is beginning to work on a new game. They're starting to spool that up. We have yet to hear anything about Bluepoint. The reason why I say this is because there is a chance, and man, if Sony did this, I would be so damn disappointed in them. There is a chance that Sony could relegate Bluepoint to being a support studio. There's a real possibility that could happen to Bluepoint because they were a support studio for 2 years after Demon's Souls. Maybe Sony just doesn't really see it. Maybe they just don't see a value in them trying to make their own games or whatever. Or maybe they just don't want to be a remaster remake studio. But yeah, I think that's the worst outcome. And I think Sony would be really stupid to do something like that. But crazier things have happened, man. So we do need to understand that even though these are real job postings for graphics engineers, it does not confirm that they're working on a new game. At least from what I can tell. We don't have explicit confirmation of that. So we're going to have to wait to hear about that. All right. See here. Yeah, Bluepoint hasn't done anything since 2020. Demon Souls Remake was the last thing they did. You think Herman should be fired for that alone? Bluepoint will do what Sony tells them to do. They sign their checks, bro. Well, yeah. Bluepoint's already remastering Intergalactic. I remember when we used to look forward to Bluepoint's mystery game. I know, man. I know. Some of the stuff has turned out to be crazy disappointing. That's okay, Chris. It's not for everybody, I guess. You know, I loved Ragnarok. The pacing is a little bit slower, certainly. The pacing is a little bit slower in Ragnarok, and I know a lot of people think God of War 2018 is much better. I still think Ragnarok is a masterpiece, though. If Sony didn't see value, they shouldn't have bought them. Well, yeah. I mean, I think Sony buying Bluepoint and Housemarque were some of the smartest decisions they made, some of the smartest studio purchases they made. But it feels like, at least in the case of Bluepoint, like I feel like Housemarque, they did Returnal, and they're going to be dropping Soros next year. So like Housemarque is killing it. I just feel like Bluepoint, man, I don't know. Like I don't know. It could be a combination of maybe the studio is mismanaged and Sony's not helping them, figure it out. I'm not sure. Chris says it's not you, it's me. Well, it was confirmed that we are getting our first look at Soros. I almost said Returnal. Soros gameplay this year. So we're going to be hearing about not even hearing, but we're going to be seeing Soros this year, and it's coming out next year. So, I mean, I'm thinking we might see it at the next State of Play, unless Sony is planning a showcase. I don't think Sony is planning a showcase, but there is an off chance they'll do a showcase in September, and that would be a good place to show it. But they did confirm we will be seeing Soros this year, so I'm stoked, man. I mean, a September showcase would be incredible, but I'm at a point where I'm assuming we're not getting an actual PlayStation showcase until close to the PS6 launch. I've just kind of given up on assuming we're gonna get like any proper showcases, because Sony seems to be doing just fine with State of Play. That's the thing. The Ghost of Yotei State of Play, got like 3 million views. They did a State of Play in June that got millions of views. I feel like they're doing fine. A showcase would be cool, though. It's been too long. But if they don't, I would continue to say that if Sony doesn't believe they can have a great showcase, then they shouldn't do it. Just do a State of Play. I'd much rather have a good State of Play than a underwhelming showcase. We know what an underwhelming showcase looks like. 2023 showcase. And yeah, we don't need more of that. Returnal's still your favorite PS game this gen? A lot of people love Returnal. It's just a shame because I feel like Returnal, it should have sold better. And I hope Sorrow sells better because I feel like Housemarque is one of these studios where like they deserve more sales, dude. Like they are a top tier studio for Sony. And you know, you see games, some of Sony's games selling like 8, 9, 10 million. And I don't know if a game like Sorrows could ever do those types of numbers, but I would just love to see Housemarque achieve a new level of success because I think that they really deserve it. I think that they're one of these kind of like more underrated studios that Sony has and that Sony's worked with over the years, and they've come a long way. God of War and Ragnarok are my go-to games to play when I don't know what else to play. I always pick up on something new and just love those games like no other. That's awesome. No showcase till PS6 should be the mantra 100%. No showcase till PS6, bro. They can have a great showcase with Sorrow, Santa Monica's new IP, intergalactic gameplay, maybe Wolverine or Venom, along with solid third parties like RE9. Yeah, they could still have a good showcase. It's just I don't know, man. I'm telling you, I get this vibe that Sony has just become okay and comfortable with doing 40-minute state of plays. Like that's what's interesting about the state of plays is like they're the length of a showcase. Sony's done 40-minute showcases before multiple times. So it's like I just think that they feel more comfortable. Like the last state of play, I don't think um what was the big game they showed at the last state of play? Why can't I remember? Oh, it was Marvel Tokon. Yeah. Yeah, well that's what I mean. Like they decided that revealing something like that would be better as like here's the closer for our state of play than putting it in a showcase. Where like they could have done a gameplay demo for Ghost of Yotei. They could have done a gameplay reveal for Saros. They could have done the Marvel Tokon reveal. Yeah, Neo 3 could have been a big announcement that they could have. All this stuff could have been in the showcase, but they decided to just stick with state of play. And to me, that tells me like I think that they just want to stick with state of play. I think it's working for them, and you know, I don't think it means that they won't do showcases anymore. I do think it just means, yeah, 007. I just think it means that showcases will truly only be reserved for like huge moments, like once every couple of years, maybe. Because it's interesting when you think about like, dude, the September 2021 PlayStation showcase, like that was basically a state of play. They labeled it a showcase, but it was basically a state of play, like a really good state of play. Maybe it's just a matter of first party content. Like, I don't think Sony, because like I think why didn't they label the September 2021 showcase? Why didn't they label that a state of play? And I think the reason they didn't label it a state of play was because they had like 4 first party things at the end. And I think that might create a crazy expectation for state of play going forward. Like, yo, if they just did a state of play where they showed 4 first party things, I guess we could just expect that every time. It's like, no. So maybe it's just a matter of like when we roll up to September, maybe Sony will do, roll call for all of their studios and who's ready to show. And if they have like 3 or 4 studios that are ready to show, they might be like, all right, make it a showcase. If they only have like 1, maybe 2 things that are ready to show, they're like, all right, we'll do state of play. I don't know. I'm just trying to understand the rhyming, the reasoning and the rhyme, but behind it, where like what is the thought process? Yeah, the 2020 showcase was crazy. You could tell Sony, they knew like we have to build hype for the PS5, like a lot of hype. And they went crazy, man. Yeah, Josh, unfortunately, I've had to clear out a lot of it due to copyrights. Some of them are just not going to be able to come back. It sucks. I know, like, but in order for me to hopefully eventually get my YouTube plaque, but yeah, I had to basically scrub all the copyrights on my channel. Some of the streams I was able to save, but it's crazy because, like, dude, some of these older reaction streams I did, they have literally like 40 copyrights. It's actually nuts. I'm like, dude, what? It seems like something changed along the way though, because my more recent stuff has way fewer copyrights. I don't know why this is. I don't know if maybe it's just like less music being used or whatever, but the Wolverine reaction, yeah, that was a good one. That was a good one. Didn't YouTube change a couple of policies recently? They're always changing stuff, honestly. They're always changing stuff, man. The best one was your meltdown with the 2021 showcase. Yeah, that was a yeah, that was all over the place. They showed Deathloop and I was losing my mind, but then they're like, actually, we got something special. We got Wolverine. I'm like, I had my bowl of popcorn. Omen says Donkey Kong Bonanza, Metacritic 90 out of 100. I'm telling you, man, he's becoming a full-blown Nintendrone. Is that what they call them? The Nintendrones. It's happening. He's going full Nintendo fanboy. Is it worth having a showcase where they show something 4 or 5 years away like Wolverine? I don't know, man. It depends on who you ask. Some people never really had a problem with that. Other people despised it. As long as, yeah, I'm at a point where I don't know that I care anymore what they call it. As long as it's good, as long as it's a good show. If it's a state of play and it's good, that's all that matters. If it's a showcase and it's good, that's all that matters. JMR says, just show me the games, man. Just show me the games. Well, guys, I think what I'm going to do is actually wrap this stream up today because I basically blew through these topics and had a hell of a lot less to say than I originally thought. I'm going to be honest. The main topic, talking about Spider-Man, thought I was going to have a lot more to say. Turns out I don't. But I think what I'll do is I'll keep the stream short today because most of my streams that I've been doing, I've been going for like 3.5, 4.5 hours. Yeah, I don't know. We're in a bit of a lull period, it seems. PlayStation's being pretty quiet, generally speaking. But oh man. Omen. He straight up says Death Stranding's on the back burner. I got my Switch too. Yeah, Gamescom is coming up. But yeah, I think this will be a good place to wrap it up. It's, we'll do a shorter stream today. Keep it shorter. Some people, I think, well, because like yesterday's stream, it would have been a shorter stream, but I talked about my skateboarding. So for people asking out of Members Lounge, go watch the last hour and a half of yesterday's stream. That was a Members Lounge. I should have cut that out and posted it as a Members Lounge, but then it would be in the video section. But that was me just talking about my skateboarding days and reminiscing. So, but yeah, guys, that's going to wrap it up for today. I did put a video out earlier. You can go check that out if you haven't. And yeah, before I head out, I want to extend a big thank you to everybody who stopped by, everybody who tuned in. And also, I want to thank people who watch the streams later on. I do appreciate the viewership. I want to make sure to give a special thank you to anybody who dropped any super chats, memberships, direct donations, all that good stuff. I can only do this because you guys make it possible. And also want to give a shout out to Devil Shooter, who does the timestamps for the stream. So if you see Devil Shooter in the comments with those timestamps, show him some love, give him some thanks, and he really appreciates it. I don't know if I'm going to get Mafia Old Country at launch, but I would like to play it. That'll be a game I get at some point, certainly. But all right, guys, that does it. The only other thing I want to ask you to do is, as you're heading out, please hit that like button, and we'll be back hopefully not too long from now with another stream. So till then, Take care, everyone.